in 2 years.
Well, hello everyone, and good evening, and welcome to Hands Across the Water. With me here is our good friend Jock from the Rangers Journal, and I was just bored sitting in the house after work and wanted to do a wee live stream and vent a wee bit about Rangers. And thankfully, Jock decided that he'd jump on with me. How are you keeping, mate? All good?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me. Like you say, it's gonna be good to vent after last night, and amongst other things to do with Rangers as well. There's just this typical Rangers. It's not a quiet week, is it? There's always something going on, and this week was no different, really, wasn't it?
No, it was actually mental, wasn't it, mate? We all thought we were having a normal quiet Monday after a very poor game vs Livingston. There was, if you were going to expect big news, you'd have thought the boys at the match would have been hearing some rumbles. There was nothing. And then on Monday, it was actually yourselves. Scotty had sort of said to us early, and we were like, whatever, Scott, no, we just dead on. I'm sure that'll happen. Oh, wait for 12 o'clock. There's news coming. And he was right, mate. What's your thoughts on all that? I know, in my opinion, it needed to happen. Maybe a wee bit too late, but well, maybe not too late. It was before January, and we couldn't let that man get his hands on a January transfer window. But what was your thoughts on it, mate? As the news was breaking?
Well, it's typical, it starts off online and there is a WhatsApp rumor, and you always take it with a pinch of salt, don't you? Because you're like, oh, here we go again. This is more guff, and you don't want to get your hopes up for Chris Jack to come on about half an hour later after you're all buzzing and it's all a lot of crap, and he's poo-pooed it. For me, I mean, the writing's on the wall for Stuart last year whenever the whole Clement debacle, whenever he backed him 1 week after that disastrous performance in the Scottish Cup, and then they sacked him a week later, saying that results didn't meet expectations and all that kind of guff. It's like, you've handled that poorly. And then, the entire stint he's had has just been handled poorly as well. And there's been no success under Stuart at all. He came in obviously after we won the Scottish League Cup last year, so you can't even claim any success there with that. And then, he's heavily involved, obviously, the recruitment process, brings in Russell Martin, takes the ones out of sales with the takeover as well. With that appointment, that's another sort of red flag for myself. And then, Kevin Thelwell, what do you need to say? Really, the proof's in the pudding, and just look at the state that the squad's in at the moment. Everybody can see it. The squad's in dire straits. That's all down to his recruitment. It's all down to the players they've picked and targeted to replace who's went out the door. And arguably, as Coyce says, I know he said, I think the word he used was abysmal. He's right. The quality that's come in has not bettered what's went out the door. If anything, it's got worse. So the writing's on the wall, I think, for Thelwell after the disastrous start, the way the players are reacting, the way the players are performing. And I think you're right in saying that given that man a January transfer window with significant money there, considering the amount of money we brought in for Egeman and Dessers, you couldn't allow it. I don't think the fans would allow it. I think the fans are on edge anyway regarding January, but I think that sacking during the week is probably going to ease some of their fears, and I think we can safely say we'll not be shopping in the Championship or the Premier League loan market in January.
Oh, I hope not, mate. How many times have we seen this, Jock, before? Time and time again. I'm thinking back to Warburton times here. We don't, I mean, it's that far back. It's quite scary that we're not learning lessons. And I thought the whole point with Patrick Stewart was brought in. Do you remember they were doing I can't remember the way they worded it, but Patrick Stewart had just come in. But at the same time, remember they brought guys in or a group in to evaluate everything Rangers were doing and where they were going wrong. And they as always, us, the normal guys, we'll not know all the findings, but the dossier was meant to be made up, and obviously it goes to the club. The new owners probably put that in place before they get in, so they could see what the problems were, and then go again and try and maybe go a different route. It looks like whatever that dossier is, mate, either it's been very poorly run if they haven't seen what Rangers have been doing wrong for a long time, or it's maybe been done correctly, but the powers that be or the guys that brought in haven't obviously learned lessons from what came out of it, mate.
Well, I mean, this is it. I know obviously part of the process, or the company that was part, I think it was the company that was brought in to do this, was related to the 49ers. I think they had sort of hand in that. This was a bit of their due diligence, coming in and looking at the club and looking at the books, and being able to do that sort of before obviously takeover is complete. So they had a hand in that. So they're obviously seen areas that they need to identify, people who put, in the place in terms of the football structure, and that was Kevin Thelwell, and that was Dan Purdy. That was your footballing side of things. And then obviously we needed a new manager as well, because Ferguson wasn't going to be the guy to take us forward. Ultimately, the guy that they brought in wasn't the guy to take us forward either. And this is where we're at now. It's another October. We're now in November. We've sacked a manager. We're now having to get behind a new manager. It's just, we're just seem to be stuck in this cycle for year in, year out now, where something doesn't work. The football structure brought in to make things better hasn't worked, so we're sacking people left, right, and centre. I'm hoping that Danny Role has come in and done what he's done, and then assessed the squad and looked at it and said, these guys aren't good enough, and what you've brought in isn't good enough. Because certainly looking at the league table and looking at our Europa League position, what we've brought in can't do the job.
Yeah, 100%. There's let me see. Yeah, Amy says loves all our accents, especially Jock's accents. You've got a mixture, Jock, haven't you? You've got a twang of Ulster, and you're just an Ulster Scot, mate. You're just literally an Ulster Scot. That's what we need to call you.
That's it. Born and raised in Falkirk. They moved over here when I was 14, so I've kind of got this hybrid thing going. But the more I drink, the more Scottish I get. So.
And let me see, CJ, and any more pics of these sexy T-shirts. I know we're both sporting a journal. He's sporting his journal gear. We're moving up in the world, but we're putting up new pictures on of our T-shirts and stuff. We've got hoodies and all coming out as well, and obviously, CJ, if you go over to the journal as well, them guys have a wee website and stuff. They're actually accelerated above us. They've got their own website, wherever I'm just stuck to putting nice fancy pictures up on Facebook. But hopefully I get a website eventually. But as I say, you'll see us putting some stuff out soon. If you just keep watching the page, but as I say, if you go on the journal's website, all their stuff's on there, and there's loads of cracking stuff, especially for Christmas. I think I've even seen Christmas stockings and everything, Jack, on the website. So the gear looks really, really, really good, mate. But yeah, just you're right, mate. It's a bit of a, because look at all that excitement we had, Jack, at this. Like, if you look at it, I'm sure your podcast was the same, mate. If you look at me and Baz and the way we were chatting towards the end of last season, and it was a bit like Rangers now. The Rangers are limping to January. We were just limping to the end of the season as a podcast, just doing the shows, where the life was sucked out of us. But then we heard about this takeover. And you will see the start of those shows over the summer. Me and Baz were pumping. We were really thinking this is it. We're going to get somewhere, and unfortunately, it hasn't been, mate. But do you think? I know some supporters, like a lot, not a lot. I would say there's some that don't want the 49ers, but I would say the most fans of certainly myself, Jack, is probably thinking, look, okay, it is a shit show, we'll have to be honest, but at least Andrew Cavan has come out, sorted it out pretty early. When you look at it, already has been 6 months, and at least he's trying to come out, putting his hands up and saying, look, made a mistake here, and I'm trying to rectify it. So, it's a bit of a reset. And do you think he can get everyone back on board again if the change tactics, basically?
It's a tough sell, isn't it? Because obviously, of everything that's went on, let's say everybody was high as a kite, and us at the Journal, I think every other podcast was the same. We were flipping, doing Hulk Hogan accents and all this kind of carry on, the red, white, and blue banner, Star Spangled Banner. We were flying high, and then the announcement that Russell Martin got the job just totally took the wind out of any high, out of sails. And then it was right. So then, from a fan's perspective, it's right, okay, this is a guy they've went for. This is a guy we're going to have to try and get behind, even though 99% of us were just like, no, this is just, you just knew this was wrong. So we tried our best, but what was happening on the pitch was so hard to try and get behind it, and there was no positives. You couldn't see positives, and he obviously kept coming out with stuff, and he just kept irking the fans even more. And as CJ says there, the last 6 months felt like years, and he's right, because ultimately they got credit in the bank for sacking the manager. I think, yep, small bit of credit in the bank, and admitting the mistakes. The recruitment process for then Danny Roll was a bit of a farce as well, because he ruled himself out the job, and then next thing he's back in. What was it, 5 days later, 3 days later, if even? I think it's not been plain sailing for them, that's for sure. As terms of a takeover goes, this has probably been a disaster. But there's still time in their hands. This season there's still plenty to play for. I know it doesn't feel like it. I know the Europa League's probably a distant memory now, obviously, because we've only got a point in that table, and usually we're the team that's still representing Scotland after Christmas. It's something we've always sort of been doing, but our European form this season's just done a complete 180 to where we usually are, and we usually pick up these games, those Braga games, class European nights. And I think that's an impact on that, of the takeover and the way things is going. Is the fans last night, you could hear the atmosphere was so flat, and there wasn't really much singing and cheering, and more of the cheering was, I think, whenever the referee gave a decision early and not for them and stuff, even though we got the penalty, and the fans sang a wee bit when Tav scored the penalty. But it's hard work for the fans to try buy into something that's just so flat at the moment. A squad that's so flat and not offering anything on the pitch. There's no excitement on the pitch for the fans to try and get behind as well. So, as you say, we're limping into this January transfer window with the hope that they can identify new players to come in and just rejuvenate this squad, because what we've got and what's been brought in so far is just not up to it. And the fans are really struggling to get behind them, and I say I'm one of them. Hand in heart, it's so difficult to try and get yourself excited for a game when you know it's going to be a battle, it's going to be a struggle, and these teams know that. They know they're going to struggle when they come and play us. Because we struggle, we're struggling against them, and it's just the basics. We can't even get the basics right at some point. Some of these games, there's no desire there either. I thought last night, the red card, we'll go on here, we'll win this game. The players should be able to sense that, take control, get the fans on board, start doing things. It's never happened. Just couldn't get themselves up for the rest of the game.
And do you think, Jock, that it's a desire thing, or do you think it's a quality issue, or is it maybe a bit of both, mate?
I think it's there's too many things. That's the thing. You're talking about inexperience because the players they've brought in aren't experienced enough at European level. There's definitely a fear factor there, because the players are scared of playing the ball forward. You've seen that last night. The two centre backs sitting passing the ball between each other because they're too scared to take that pass forward that opens up things. And it took Diamande to start pushing further forward in the midfield to get things moving for us last night. And that was the last sort of 15 minutes of the first half where we actually started creating chances, but it took half an hour for that to come. I just think that there's still a lot. This is the word Russell Martin used, was anxiety. I think the squad is still dealing with this and can't get over that mental side to play in front of Ibrox.
The trauma of Martin.
But it's a demanding atmosphere. It's a demanding crowd. Ibrox, it really is. But I mean, there's still so much to play for this season, and you just need to. We're on a run in terms of league form, which is good to see, and I don't think that's something Roll would be able to do, particularly going away to Hibs and getting a win there. I thought that was a good result. With 3 home games in the bounce now, and we're coming at the third one at the weekend. Falkirk, with a win and a draw, hopefully we get another win, because we need to keep putting pressure on in the league, and I think we should just scrap the Europa League now and just forget about it, and just focus on the league and the Scottish Cup, because it's all we've got to play for at this moment. And I say hopefully come January time they can try bring new faces in that will try and rejuvenate the squad and bring a bit of confidence and just something fresh, because I think they're so stale from the earlier Russell Martin period of the season. There's no continuity there. There's no flow in the team at all. It's so bit part, and we're just waiting on somebody to do a special moment in the game. There's no patterns or play, and there's none of that at all.
It seems to be a wee bit. Well, just say with Bob Blueno's put up here first. We're only 3 points off qualification places in the Europa League. The league's still very much in our own hands. Strengthen properly in January, and we will be okay. And see, when you're reading that, it's hard to disagree, because when you look at the facts, that baffled there, what he says is 100% correct. But what scares me is, Jock, is can we? Do you know what I mean? Can we limp ourselves to January? How much, or is it damage limitation until January? Because I'm thinking of the Hibs game at Easter Road, that we started very well first 5-10 minutes, and we were excellent, and then we were struggling after that. And fair play, the team sort of they battled that one out and got it took Butland obviously to get to save a penalty at the end to get all 3 points. And then you're looking at even the Kilmarnock game before that at Ibrox, that was a bit of a struggle. Deflected shot for Shermity eventually went in and stuff, and we got ourselves through. But if you looked at the chances Kilmarnock had, and then you look at Livingston at Ibrox Park, that was a terrible game. That was a toss of a coin game. Could have went any way. Dundee, I will give credit to Dundee away performance. I thought were very good. That's probably the best performance we've had so far.
I think so.
But in reality, mate, are you like? And I can't believe I'm saying this, and I don't want to sound downbeat. I hope we're going to win, on Saturday or the weekend something, and I expect us to win. But I've still got a fear, and it's Falkirk at Ibrox Park, and I'm still worrying, thinking if they're on it, what I mean, and they take our chances, we're going to be in a sticky wicket, and we've got tough places to go. I think we've Hearts away before we get to January. We're away at Tannadice. I think we're away at Kelly's ground as well at Rugby Park, and tough places to go. And do you think this squad's up to it, Jack, to keep these winnings going until January?
Probably not. I don't think the squad's up to it. Just going on what we're seeing, as you say, the weekend there, that Livingston game was awful. We had 2 shots on target at home. Granted we did better last night, but still, that's not going to get you top of the league. That's not going to get you winning shiny things. Going home team getting 2 shots on target at home. We are struggling, but we're grinding out the points, and it's something I didn't think we'd do as quickly with a new manager and with this squad, if I'm being honest. But there is potential there. There is potential. Gassama and have potential. It's just a matter of unlocking it and getting the best out of them. And I still think Rowe's yet to do that, really. And particularly with the front line, because we shipped out Egaman and Dessers. There's 60 goals between 2 players. We've brought in Chermiti, who hasn't scored, obviously, apart from the Kilmarnock game at Ibrox. This is his first goal in about 2 years in professional football. And then we have Miovski, who didn't do much at I think it was Girona he was at, but obviously he has that Aberdeen spell on as credit in the bank in this league, so we know he can deliver goals. It's just a matter of getting them service, and I still think we're struggling to get a service to our strikers. So there's so much work to be done, but we're now in a stretch of games where there's no international break now for the best part of March. This is the time now where the players get it's proper training. They're around each other all the time. There's no breaks now. We need to continue the run we're on. And I still think we need to start seeing more of boys like Curtis and Lyle Cameron. They are in the team for a reason. They were shown at the start of the season they can contribute with goals, particularly Curtis. Some of the goals he scored in Panathinaikos, scored in the league against St Mirren. There's plenty of talent, particularly youth talent there, that we need to start to try and use, because Rowe's not really used much yet, to be fair. He's not really touched in the youth team yet, so it's going to be a big ask, and we need the fans to try and back them as best we can. I know it's hard watching last night, but it's the only thing you can do. It's the only thing you can do is support the team and try and encourage them, because see, up until January, this is what we've got to work with, and December's a busy month of fixtures.
Yeah. Just a quick shout to Stevie here for a good day from down under to up above, because obviously Stevie sometimes he doesn't get to watch us live, but he comments on the shows after, because obviously the time, it's all totally different. But it's good to have you on with us today, buddy, on a live show. So thank you for the comment and thank you for watching. Let me see. We'll go into Kyle says, should Curtis now get a run in the team? He seems to be the only clinical finisher we have at the club at the moment. I think that's a fair comment. Baz has been demanding young Curtis on for quite a long time. But even in the Europa League, like you said yourself, Jock, the Champions League qualifiers, he done something that I can't see many in that team being able to do. Take a ball from our own half, a great wee run, bang. Soon as he sees the goal finish, and it was an absolute cracking finish. And he is a cracking finisher. He scored a few goals, I think, in the League Cup as well. I think he's actually got as many goals as all our other strikers put together. When you think of what I think he's got 3 or 4. I can't remember now. So what do you think the situation? I did say, I think it was Stevie Clifford asked him that question yesterday, and he said Curtis had a wee knock, but he's definitely going to get a chance. But he can't lose anything now by putting these young fellas on, Jack, because we're a team that creates very little. And when we do create anything, we're not very good at finishing it. And we're not very good at the defense either. And when you put all that together, it's just, it's soul destroying. But I know Connor Barron isn't the greatest player in the world, but he gives you a lot of heart, a lot of desire. There's so many comments on our pages. I'm sure the same on your pages, mate, and even on the comments so far about Barron and his performance. And Rangers fans will get by you or stick with you. See if they see effort. They will put it. Like, look at the likes of, I said the bar yesterday, likes of Sibo, for example, wasn't a great player, but the fans loved him because he tried his best at all. And Nacho Novo was the same. The knew when Nacho came on the pitch, he was going to bust his arse. And that's what Barron does. The likes of Lyle Cameron will do the same. The likes of young Curtis will do the same. And I'd rather see a Lyle Cameron and a Curtis than what I'm seeing in the midfield at the minute from Dio at times, and what I'm seeing up front from the likes of your Schmidtis and Miosi's and stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking at least you get a wee bit of, like, Asgard comes on that pitch yesterday, mate, and Antman, and they come on the pitch, and and I know, before, as soon as they come on, you're going, they're going to give us nothing. They're going to be on the pitch, but they're going to be empty jerseys, because that's what they've sort of shown us. They've shown us wee small glimpses, but in the main, they've shown us they don't offer much. And the sad thing was, they come on that pitch, and you would forget they were even on the pitch. You actually looked like, at some points, that they had more men than us in the pitch, even though for times we were the ones with we had the man there. So at least if he sticks these young fellas on, Jack, I think honestly, even if the results didn't go well on the game, I still think the fans would back the decision. Do you know?
Yeah, no, I think so. I know Curtis obviously had a knock, and it was well publicised. Which probably just taking a wee bit longer, but it's like most players at Rangers, once they get injured, it's you just don't know how long it's going to be, and it's always a case of they're back and then they're away again, injured again. See, you're talking about Cameron again. Yep, they both will give you 110%, and that's all we as fans ask for. We don't mind getting beat, but as long as we get beat by a better team that's outworked us and is better technically. But if we're trying our best and we've put a shift in, we as fans will take it on the chin, because okay, we've tried our hardest, it just wasn't it wasn't for us. Curtis, I really, like you say, he's one of their top goal scorers still, and we're coming into the start of December now, which again is a joke. So why not, if he's fit, play him? Now I know we had Mikey Moore had been sort of playing in that position, but then he'd moved him into the central, and I think he's been far better. And I think we really do miss Moore's sort of drive and directness. The same with Curtis, as you say. He'll pick up the ball and he'll carry the ball. We don't have ball carriers. Gassama wants to cut inside. Ant-Man wants to cut inside. We're not stretching games. Let's say across the front in the midfield, we are struggling big time. And at the back, as Baz says there, Giga's a bomb scare. That last night was a farce. But Giga's only playing because Suter's injured and Cornelius is injured. Fernandez looks to be okay. We've got to remember ourselves that Fernandez is only 19. Yes, we paid a lot of money for him, but that's the market you're in down there for an England youth international. You're going to have to pay good money to get them. So Fernandez, I'm hoping, stays. I'd rather drop Giga and play Enciala, if I'm being honest, because Giga to me is not doing anything to warrant a start, particularly after last night's brain fart. He has those brain farts in it. We've seen it all season, and that is not, that's not good for your confidence in your back line, let alone your goalkeeper as well. Thankfully, Butland's actually playing out his skin and has probably kept us in plenty of games and kept us from going behind in plenty of games this season. Considering the sort of the season he had last season where he was kind of dropping things, and I think he scored 2 own goals, didn't he? So, punched the ball in the net twice. So
yeah,
I know Sterling's there as well. We still need to see Sterling come in. And I know he played a youth game there for during the week, and I think he gave away a penalty. They got beat 3-0, or I think they got beat 3-2 in the end up, but they were 3-0 down at half time. So he needs minutes in his leg as well. So there is options coming back, but yeah, I think going forward we need to seriously take a look at the midfield going forward, because there's just not much happening here.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, prime example. Jack Butland saved us yesterday in the first 10 minutes because there was a couple of, I think there was what they went through, one ball through, usual with Rangers. That's what you have to do, and that cuts Rangers open easy peasy.
Yeah.
Tab made a bit of a mistake, as he does at times, and again, Butland had to come out quick. So we could have been 2-3 down really early in that game, mate. And then you're thinking, okay, right, we rode that storm out. Bit lucky. Thank you, Butland, for saving us there. And then we get the penalty, and as you said yourself, you're looking at all these things going your way. They're actually going your way, and you're thinking, right, maybe it's time now that they'll start to kick on. Maybe it'll go into the brains and go, right, things are going, and they just don't have it in them. The quality's not there. But the likes of the Giga incident, we'll talk about that. Like, we've seen him in the Old Firm game for a start. Oh my God, remember he blasted the ball out, and you're just going, fuck me, get him off the pitch in the first 5 minutes, because he's going to be a bomb scorer. And then you're seeing the likes of last night. And I know I've seen some people saying that's windy out there. Fuck me. We've, especially, you've lived in Scotland, mate. You've lived over here. You've been involved in Sunday league football and Saturday football, amateur football here, and wind's howling, the rain's pissing, and here you wouldn't get away with that excuse at that level. Never mind at Ibrox Park. And Wolves have, the problem is, Jack, as you say, Wolves have spent 10 million on him, but they can gamble. With the money they're getting down there, 10 million is just, I fell out of my pocket here. I take a gamble on him. For us, that's massive money. They think, obviously, with the wages and all he's on, I wouldn't even like to know what we've paid to bring him up the road. But he was absolutely awful, mate. He needs the only actual positive about him is that he's not our player. We're not bound to we don't have to have him, and it would be madness if we triggered anything with him. But what did you think of that yesterday? That was really bad. And Ciala, for me, as you said, he's made mistakes. He's young. I'd rather see our own player make mistakes than seeing this here from this so-called fancy player coming up the road from the English Premier League. And that was the worst. One of the worst standard I've seen, to be fair, was that last night.
Yeah, I was horrendous. I couldn't believe it when I watched it, and then I watched it back, and then I seen it again, and I was just like, "What's he doing?" He would have been better leaving it and letting, even though there's a striker in behind him, and Fernandez is there. I think Fernandez has got a better chance of doing something with it. Or if you're not sure, put out for a corner. If you're not sure, put it out for a corner. It's just basic communication. Is something that's clearly lacking between the two centre backs. Now, let's say Ibrox wasn't loud last night, so there's no way Butland hasn't shouted to him of what to do, or told him what to do, or just get rid of it. Anybody, if he puts it out for a corner, no one bats an eyelid. They'll be just right, okay, he's taking the safe option, he's been safe. That's fine. We can deal with a corner, no bother, most of the time. So yeah, and as you say, Wolves paid, I think it was between 10 and 12. I think that a Premier League club paying that kind of money, that would have been what sort of 1.5 million, 500k Rangers back in the day. It's one of those ones that we'll take a wee risk. That's just a wee squad player. Come in, he could do a job, and if we sell him for big money, happy days. If we don't, then it's not too much at a risk. But it was just calamitous. And again, we've seen this movie before. He has these brain farts in him, and as you say, if that was in Ciala, I think fans would be a bit more accepting of the situation. Right, okay, he's made a mistake. He's young, and as an experienced centre back as he is, he's had plenty of games in and around European football. Because he came from, where did he come from? Was it Russia? or was it Sparta Prague? Was it Czech Republic? I think they bought him from. I think he's one of the Sparta teams. I think they came him from. So he's got plenty of experience in European football to be doing better there. Simple as that. My mate messaged me and he said you would have done better there, and I said I know I would.
If it's true though, fuck me. I swear if I was playing centre back at any level when I was growing up and I had done that, I'd have just went home and says fuck that. The embarrassment would have killed me. So it would have, to be honest. But just a comment here. Let me see. There was someone asked a question. Where are we? Well, this is going to be a tough one to answer. Is there? Kyle asked, is there any of the loan players you guys would consider keeping at the club? Jack, I'll let you answer that one first, mate, and see if is there anyone you would keep out of them if we had the option to do it.
I would say Magoma. Magoma's steady. He's a steady Eddie, and a steady Eddie in any league is worth having. Weight and goal, because you're going to get 7 out of 10 performance every game. You maybe get a 9 because he maybe comes up with an assist here and there. He has ability. He's not let himself down defensively yet. I just think we need to try and get more out of him offensively, because he's got a couple of assists to his name and he does get the ball in the box. I just think we need to try and nurture that, because there's pace there, and he's clever enough to read the game at his age as well. I think he just needs that. He just needs somebody with a bit of experience just to coach him through games, a bit like Goldson, somebody like a Goldson that can just talk to him on that side and just tell him when to go, tell him when to stop, tell him to come back. I think that's what we're missing across the team. Midfield, up front, we're just missing experienced players in certain positions that can just guide the youth team that are playing around games and manage games better. So for me, as Magoma would be the one. Mikey Moore, I see in the comments here, that's not happening, because Mikey Moore is going to be a 50-60 million pound Premier League player. We're just a wee stepping stone to showcase his talent in a domestic setting, because you'll not get that at Spurs, obviously, at this point. Cornelius I would probably keep as well, because Cornelius has ability, can be steady enough, and is a goal threat as well. And that's what we need that from our centre backs. We need to be scoring more goals from set pieces, and he's got that. He's already got off the mark in that regard as well. So those would be the two that I would keep. The rest of them, for me, not. Aaron's definitely not. And Giga, absolutely. Giga I would send back in January if there was any option, and get somebody else in, because what's the worst that can happen at this point? Send them out and get somebody else in, because they can't make as many mistakes as he's made already.
Yeah, no, 100%. Let me see. Blue Max says, can't completely fault Giga. We failed to take the chances we created and needed a pen to score. Overall, the whole team was at fault, but the mistake by Giga was the worst. And that is the truth. Blue Mac, you are correct. We're sort of calling that one out because obviously it was the big mistake, but there was plenty of more. As I say, with me and Jack, I don't know if you're just on me, we were discussing just before that, the Tav mistake, the ball that came right through, the early one. Came right through our defence, and Butland had to save it as well a couple of times. So it wasn't just Giga's fault, unfortunately, but that was by far the worst one. But it wasn't great. It wasn't great going forward. It wasn't great going back, and unfortunately, and it wasn't really great through the middle either. And that's just Rangers at the minute. It gets us by in the Scottish division, which look, it's better than what normal is, or what it's normally been, because we don't get 4 wins in a row and stuff in the Scottish. That's just something we haven't been getting for years. So you're trying not to be too downbeat, but you're just sort of waiting for this bad result to come. Hopefully it doesn't come on the weekend. Hopefully we can keep this going. I've seen a few people asking, let me see, hopefully see Bijrami on Sunday. And thank you for watching from Toronto, mate. So that's with people watching from Australia, with guys watching from Canada, with all around the world watching us, which is great. Thank you for joining us. What do you think of Bijrami, Jock?
Bijrami's an enigma, isn't he? You only see him for brief sort of spells. He comes on and he does okay, and you're like, I wonder if he'll start next game, and then he doesn't. And then you don't see him again until he comes back off the bench, and he's doing okay again. He still plays the international games, so that's only sort of football he's getting at the moment. I would like to see more, because again, he's another one of these guys. He has talent, he has ability. We've seen it again in flashes, like most of this Rangers team. There is talent there within individuals, but we only see it in flashes. We just need consistency, and he's another one. We need a consistent run in the team. But where do you play him? His best game for Rangers has probably been the one where he marked McGregor, and we won 3-0 in the Old Firm game, which nobody expected because he was man to man and he done a marking job. That's it. He scored a handful of goals. A decent one against Aberdeen last season, and then he scored against Alla this season, didn't he? I think he did, and I think he scored that good goal, hit the underside the bar, and went in. That's about the height of it. I've not seen enough of him, and again, that was one that we paid a good chunk of £4 million worth, and he's just not lived up to the hype. So yeah, we can only do the eye test with him, and he needs minutes, and he's just not getting enough minutes because Role prefers playing Gassama out there or Ant-Man out in the right. So yeah, until we see more of him, you can't really make your mind up. I think. I just hope he doesn't go for pennies because it'll be another wasted transfer. Because at the end of the day, he's an international footballer. We should have international footballers throughout our team. They should be a core of our team. He was one that sits and warms the bench, you know.
Yeah. That's someone saying there, Bold and Blue saying Giga makes Proper look like prime Nesta. And the sad thing is, though, I would take Proper, and this is crazy, like to say this, but see the likes of Proper, who we know wasn't good enough, but he was still better than what we're seeing, which is really bad to say. You know, it's damning. You know, I'm thinking of some of the guys who've let go. Like, I'll tell you one thing, Jock, I don't know about you, mate. Balogun walks into this team tomorrow, right now. See if we went over to him and says, "Here, we're taking him back." He walks into that team tomorrow, and he's our best centre back like that. Absolutely, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be getting rid of certain players, and because we want to keep improving, of course we do. Because Balogun wasn't always available. That was just unfortunately with injuries, getting a bit older.
Yeah.
But it just shows you how poor the recruitment's been, hasn't it?
That's it. I highlighted that in our podcast there. I think it was last week. It was on the members ones, and it was about the bench and the experience on the bench that's left to compare to what the bench was on Saturday. And they're only, with Inciala was one of our only centre backs we had on the bench. Where the same fixture last year, I think it was Dundee United at home, and we had Hadji on the bench, Tavernier was on the bench, Balogun was on the bench. You know, Iguaman was on the bench. It just shows you what was there to what we have now. And Balogun's one of those ones, the experience he has, the calmness. He'll play anywhere across the back four. Balogun would play up front, I think, if you asked him, because he was just one of those guys that just bought into Rangers and just took Rangers to heart because he understood what it meant. And like you say, he's one of those defenders that would throw himself in front of shots, a bit like the cup final there, or the cup semi-final, sorry. Suter ducks out the way. Balogun puts his face in front of that. Same like Hollander. Hollander, one of those defenders, puts his body on the line, doesn't duck out of it, throws himself in front of it and takes a hit for the team, for the club, for the fans. And again, Balogun to me is just one of those ones that, yes, he was pushing an age, but I still think he could do a job 100%. We could manage him, manage his time, manage his training, get him through games. Davy Weir did the same thing, played until he was 40, 41, because we managed him and knew how to get the best out of him on match days. I don't see why we couldn't have done that with Balogun.
Yeah, no, 100%. A bit like talking about people that put your body on line. Remember Papac in that game at their ground? Literally put his face on the line for Rangers. Bring those kind of players back. And you tell you, Papac was always never a 10 out of 10, but never a 5. He was always a 7 out of 10, done his job at left back. And absolutely fantastic. But gone are the days of having even players they got that just give you, you know what I mean, every week just put a performance in. And I feel bad. We'll get on to Chermiti as well, but I feel bad for the likes of Gassama. You know, and the wingers, you know yourself, Jack. You know, if he was amazing every time, beat his player every time, turned in and scored every time, he wouldn't be at Rangers. As much as I hate to say that, they'd be somewhere else. And that's just the way it goes. It'd be bigger money. So at times he's not always going to do the right thing. At times he's going to be great, and at times he's going to frustrate you, like all wingers do.
Yeah.
But the problem for us is, Jack, if he's not on it, Rangers create an album. I think even Ali McCoy at one stage was going, "Give the ball to Gassama, just hit it out to Gassama," and you're sitting going, and even Ali can see it too. You know, that is the only, if you mark him out of the team, all of Rangers' creativity is dead in the water.
God,
And
yeah.
but some of the fans are giving him a bit of, not saying many, most aren't, but there's some that's giving him a bit of stick. But I would say for him, Jock, it's he's only here, and a typical Rangers, everyone else, all these other players just look the other way, waiting for someone else to do something. And
Yeah.
he's a trier, I'll give him that, but we need a bit more than just him, don't we?
Aye, I think it's frustration on the fans' part because we know what he can do because we've seen it. He loves that cut in, that right foot, just bend it in the far corner. How many times has he tried it? How many times has he scored already this season? How many times has he hit the post? He's hit the post a couple of times. Crossbar, the same thing. So it is in there. We know it's in there, but I think it's just decision making. He's trying too hard. There's a lot of times you see him last night. He tripped over himself a couple of times, and to me, I think he's struggling with the physicality of the league as well. Because I think, to me, there's times where I think just stay on your feet, don't go down, stay on your feet. And I think he's looking for fouls and stuff. Where I think Dessers was the same in his first season. He kind of struggled with the physicality a wee bit and was kind of going to ground too early, and he wasn't getting free kicks that he maybe was going to get in different leagues. The free kicks.
Any other league?
Well, that's it. I mean, that's it. So Gassama, I mean, again, he's still young and he's not got many games under his belt. At a decent standard. That Sheffield United, the season before last, he did okay there, and we've seen glimpses of what he could do. And obviously, in the YouTube clips we all watched before he signed for us, and we've seen flashes and glimpses there. But like you say, if he doesn't get up and running and doesn't get into the right positions, there's no creativity, there's no chance creation there. His best attributes are running at people with pace, taking people on and skinning people and hitting the byline. We know he can do it. I just think he struggles. He struggles in a team where there's no overlap because Magoma's not overlapping for him. There's nobody undercut him. Whereas we were used to Ryan Kent with Barisic in the overlap for years, and it worked because you knew Kent was either going to hit a shot or the ball was going out to Barisic, and Barisic was going to put a decent ball in the box because he always did. I think we were just so accustomed to that. It's strange not seeing it. So I think the Magoma and Gassama relationship there is still to be worked on. Because there's been glimpses of it, but just not came to fruition as much as we would like. And it's the same way Ant-Man on the other side, Ant-Man and Tav. It's a new partnership, and it just still quite starts trying to figure each other out. We're bringing up the names like Sima and Cherny and stuff. I mean, those guys were just experienced and just have a different level. Sima could play through the front. He could play across that front three and gave you everything. Cherny, granted, was on the right-hand side most of the time, but Cherny was technically better, I think, than anybody we've got at the club. Cherny was able to do things that most other people couldn't, but he also gave you everything. And Cherny got off to a bad start as well. Remember, he turned and he had to go to France. But he picked his socks up and knuckled down and ended up having a great season. Many other players could have just collapsed and folded. I think Tremiti might be one of those guys that had to go at the fans and had to go when he celebrated that goal. Hasn't backed it up since. Cherny backed it up. Simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. As I say, and the problem is too, Jack. I think if you're coming into Rangers like say Gassama and stuff, what you're expecting is to have a good spine of a team there because you're going to Rangers. And then someone like him can come in and learn the Scottish game, make mistakes here and there. But when he's not on it, the rest of your team, your experience is going to be there, and they'll take the reins at times, and take the weight off. We don't have a spine. We have no experience. The only experience we do have is bad experience, if we're being honest. And I don't think that helps them either. Let me see who else. Big Baz says Big Dessers makes our current strikers look like Sunday League standard. What do you? Well, we'll go through the strikers. What do you think first of Shermity? Obviously 8 million. I think with add-ons it can go up to 10 million, but I don't know what numbers he has to hit for it to get to 10 million. But I very much doubt he's going to hit them. What do you think of that signing overall? Even the likes of yesterday. Do you think he's absolutely useless, or do you think he's a young raw player that needs to go somewhere else on loan and shouldn't have been to us. It should have been somewhere else just to learn his trade. I think he was reading in the paper and stuff. He's got aspects of going to the World Cup of Portugal. I'm just going to let him down easily now and tell him that's not going to happen. Book a holiday when the World Cup's on because you ain't going there. What's your thoughts on him?
Well, I mean, if he does have aspirations of going to the World Cup, you can get international football and Scottish football. Raskin is proof of that. I mean, Raskin's sitting beside Kevin De Bruyne, one of the greatest midfielders to ever play in the Premier League at the moment. So you can do it in our league. You can get to international and you can get to tournaments playing for Rangers. You just need to do it to a certain degree and a certain level, and Trinity's just not doing that. It's the money we spent on it was crazy. It's crazy money. Now, I can understand us spending £8 million on, say, Eagleman, because we knew he was raw and he had potential. But there's two total polar opposites of players. And I'd love to see the data, because we were told that they were recruiting in this data model and stuff. Where's the data for Tremiti that warrants £8 million from Rangers? I haven't seen it. Certainly not seen it on display at all. He just looks lost. I don't think he wants to be here. And it's a massive, massive outlay for a player that just looks like he's got no interest at all. Now, I'll give him some credit that last night, early, particularly in the first half, whenever he was sort of running about and he was trying and he was pressing, things just weren't working for him. But he did have the Braga team sort of worried. That defence was sort of worried by him because he is mobile. He can get about. But, he did he have one shot across the face of goal? I think that was it.
Yeah.
I know he's not getting, all the strikers aren't getting much service, but there's a couple of chances in other games. It just doesn't look good, and I feel sorry for the guy because it's not his fault that a club like us has come in and paid that kind of money for him. It's not his fault, but he's been sold. He's been sold a move to us that this is your stepping stone, because this is basically what Rangers are now in terms of prospective players that have potential, but we've not even seen any potential from him. So either he's cracking in training and he's banging them in goals in training and he looks like a world beater, and we just don't see it. Yeah. Whenever it was announced that he was coming and that was the money, I was like, not a chance. We're not spending £8 million on that. And then it was £8 million potentially rising to 10. As you say, what does he have to do to get the move to go to £10 million? You know what I mean? Is that 50 goals inside 2 seasons or something? It's like a championship manager, a football manager add-on. I have no idea. The whole thing just reeks for me. It just reeks.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, and see, to be honest, Jack, now, I'm not saying this is good enough for Rangers. I'm not saying this, but what I'm saying is, even if he was, because he played a lot in Everton under 21s and stuff, and even if he was banging goals there, you know what I mean? At least you could go, well, maybe they've seen something that, Thelwell's seen him at Everton at that youth level or whatever, and he's been banging goals in for fun at a decent standard of football, and he's went, no, this big man can come up here. He's the next big thing. We'll get him now before, he explodes and the way we can't afford him kind of thing, a bit like Clement said with Egaman.
Yeah.
But he hadn't scored a goal. He hadn't, this guy, Thelwell has spent 25 million on this guy, and he's seen him scoring one fucking goal in 2.5 years, mate. And now that's the reason. That's not the only reason, but I would say it's one of the big reasons that Thelwell's got the boot. But it's just, as you say, it doesn't sit right with me whatsoever. I think that David Egger said on the show that you need if he buys, because we were saying hopefully Thelwell gets a job somewhere else and he'll maybe bat him again. And I think David Egger says he wants a DNA test between Thelwell and Tremiti if that happens, which I thought was quite funny. But yeah, it's just been terrible. So we'll move on to Danilo. Danilo was our. Now I don't know. He was unlucky with injuries. He came back with that knee injury, and you know yourself. How many players have we seen at Rangers get knee injuries and never come back to see him? He was our third. option last season. Even when we were struggling for goals, he very rarely got on the pitch. Clement very rarely trusted him to put him on. And now at times he's leading our attack more than often than not because the likes of Shermity and Miowski, unfortunately, at the minute just aren't doing the job. So what's your thoughts on Danilo, mate? And again, 6 million we spent on him.
Yeah, I mean, when we signed him, he was flying for Feyenoord in their pre-season. He was scoring goals for fun. He was putting them in for 30 yards and stuff because we were tracking him. And it was like 6 million was like a bargain. And he came in and he done what he always done. Whenever he comes into the team after being out for a while, he gets a purple patch and he scores goals and he gets his points. And then his dad's bouncing about and everybody loves his dad and his dad's went viral again, and everybody thinks it's class. And you have that wee sort of high, but then it comes crashing back down whenever he has a couple of games where he doesn't score, and he had a really gilt-edged chance last night that you need to take, and he didn't take it. So the pressure's on again to try and find that purple patch again, because he's the only one up front that's really got goals in him this season. Which is what we're crying out for, which is we're desperate for our strikers to score goals, and and he can get you different types of goals because he showed that against Hibs, and he showed that against Kilmarnock. Two totally different types of goals: a headed goal and a nice shot across the goalkeeper at the side net. And that's a difficult strike to do, but he has it. And I thought he tried to do the same sort of strike last night, and he just got it all wrong. So I don't think he's not a starter. For me, he's not a starter. We need somebody in there that is going to push the rest of the centre forwards to up their game. And I think that's another problem this season, is that majority of those players know that they're going to start because there's nobody pushing them for a place in the team. There's no competition there because what's come in is obviously not good enough and is not getting played. So Roll's playing what he knows he'll get a decent performance out, or he'll get an honest shift out of. So look at that. Like I say, if you look at the midfield, like Rothbell's not pushing anybody for a place in the team, not a chance. Miowski and Danilo and Shermity, he's just rotating the three of them. He's just dropping, and he's just giving them 40 minutes here, 45 minutes there. If it's going crap at half time, we'll give them a full half. Granted, Roll's not feared to make the changes, but it's because we need the changes, because who started the game's not offered us anything. So Danilo, for me, I felt sorry for him whenever he done his face in, because he was on that purple patch and he was putting his body on the line to get goals, and I think he scored with that, didn't he? When he got clattered,
he actually scored. Yeah, he scored. He scored a cracking header. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, he's one of the ones that come in and put his body on the line, and is willing to do that for the team. But again, I no doubt he'll get another knock, and then that'll be him out for a wee while. It's just one of those ones where you've paid big money for him, and it's just never really had a long run in the team.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to Miowski, because sort of time's running on Jock here. So just quickly, because obviously I know you need to go, buddy. So just quickly on Miowski. Obviously, we know he scored in Scotland before, decent level and stuff. But the problem is, do you think it's maybe when he was playing for Aberdeen, if we've seen that goal he scored for North Macedonia there, the through ball that he runs on to, finishes it in Scotland, when we're playing at Rangers, everyone's coming 10 men behind the ball and space is tight and he has to create his own sort of chances. Do you think it's going to work out for him in the long run at Rangers?
I hope so. I do hope so, because there is nothing better than getting one up in Aberdeen, isn't there, and just sticking it to them. And him signing for us just made half of them sick, which was great to see. The social media uproar was fantastic and was good viewing. But again, he's one of those ones, he's got credit in the bank because we can do it in this league. But as you say, if you look at the Macedonia goal that he scored where he's running into space, he got that against Livingston, and that's how we got the win, because they pushed up quite high. There was space to run into, and if it wasn't for his toe, I think we were drawn with Livingston at the weekend. But because of the way he challenged the keeper and got the touch on the ball, that's the difference in the 3 points. So he can make a difference, because as I hark back, when I looked at the bench and I was looking at Miowski as being their only attacking option on the bench, and at the weekend there, I was like, he's not in form. He's not the one that's sort of going to look at the bench and go, he can come on and get a goal. But he came on and contributed, and he did enough and that's all we can really ask for from him at the moment is can he do enough to either get a goal or set up a goal, and he's done that. So there is potential there. He does have ability, but we've just not seen the same sort of chances created, chances, shots and stuff like that. He's just not shown us what he did at Aberdeen. But then again, Aberdeen obviously were against us particularly. Were always a counter-attacking team against us, especially up there. They would sit in and soak us up, and then they would try and hit us in the counter, and that's how he scored. He scored some cracking goals against us over the years. So he did. So we've seen it. We have seen it against our ones. We've seen this movie before. He can operate in this league, but we need to get him a service, and we need to try and find a way to get the best out of him. And Martin wasn't able to do it. But to me, I don't think that was a Martin signing. I think that's a Thelwell signing. He's brought him in. We need money. We need somebody in that can get goals. We know he can do this, and he's cheap, so we've got him. I think that's the only reason he's here.
Yeah. No, you're probably right. I think it was probably a panic button because he's seen that everyone else he'd brought in wasn't gonna cut the mustard, and it's been like, right, fuck, who scored goals in Scotland before? Him. He's available, and it's probably just right. Get him in, and hopefully this turns around everything for me and for our manager that we've brought in. But listen, thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate that. If you want to become a member, you can for as little as 99p. And if you'd like to hit the like button and stuff, we'd really appreciate that. Just before we go, Jock, do you want to just quickly tell us about the Rangers Journal and how to get you and stuff before we head off?
Yep, thanks. We are on YouTube, like yourselves. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We have Instagram, like with TikTok, and we're now on Etsy. That's our shop. So this is where I got the hoodie from. So we've got all your merch for Christmas. So please head on over if you're looking for a last minute Christmas gift, and get the orders in. It takes about a week for the stuff to come, so you've got plenty of time yet. And like yourselves, get over to the Hand Across the Water shop and get buying the merch, because there's some good stuff there. So there's plenty of us, and so we're on every night really during the week, and then we do post-match and pre-match games coverage of the league games as well. So there's plenty of content out there from both our podcasts. So guys, just like and subscribe and get viewing, please.
Thank you very much. And as Jock has just said there, if you go into their Etsy account, you'll find it on anything any of their socials. And I say they do have some cracking stuff, especially for Christmas. So last minute gifts, and we'll get Big Baz. He's been in the whole night across the road there watching us. Thanks, Baz. And you can do the packing of our orders. You can be the elf this time for Christmas for Hands Across the Water and help us unpacking. But cheers and thank you for coming on with us, Jock. I really appreciate it because it was last minute, so you pulled me out of a hole there. So thank you. Everyone watching. You're welcome. I really appreciate you doing it. And thank you for everyone watching us. As I say, we'll be back very soon. Me and Baz will be with you. Baz, I think actually he's a sick note for Monday. He was telling me yesterday. So I'll try and get someone else on for Monday, our usual slot. And we'll have a bit of a chill out and chat, and hopefully talking about Rangers winning a match in the league and going 5 in a row. So thanks again, everyone. And we'll speak to you again very soon.